The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook. Use promo code RTRS. And brought to you by Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. Get yours at bigbarker.com/Ricky. BodyBio. Better health through science. Get 20% off eLight at bodybio.com with promo code RTRS20. And Stateside Urban Craft Vodka, the sponsor of the Corner 3 newsletter, available in 44 states. StatesideVodka.com. On the show today, the Joel Embiid-less Sixers wrap up the Joel Embiid-less time 7-3, it seems like. Not bad at all, with a win over the Cavs. Joel coming back this weekend, looks like Saturday. We'll talk about the big guys returned. The Sweet 16 in the Joel Embiid Field of 64 moments will be voted on this weekend. We will go through those. A moment Mike has been waiting for his entire life, and JJ Redick is being a big fucking baby. So we'll talk about all that stuff. Before we get going, we are 30 subscribers away from 4,000 on our YouTube page. Shout out CJ. You can watch the podcast on YouTube. Smash that subscribe button. If you're watching and you're not subscribed, please smash it. We started 1 year ago with 132 subscribers, and we're almost at 4,000. So thank you to everyone who subscribed, and thank you to CJ for emailing us one day and saying, Spike, you're not really doing a very good job on the YouTube. Let me do it. So without any further ado, Amos and the Chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who we can finally be sure that the guy on this podcast is the same guy identified on Twitter as Mike Levin. That is Mike Levin.
That's right. I am verified, and I haven't tweeted since I've been verified
because you didn't want anyone to notice.
I partly didn't want anyone to notice, and also it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? Who am I going to become?
Yeah.
How quickly can I get that check mark removed?
You can't curse. You know that's in the rules.
That's sure, yeah. The things that I say, it's dangerous. So I'm, a little buyer's remorse about being like, well, now it's funny to complain about not being it, but then once you are it, then you can't. Bragging about it doesn't feel right. So I think I might try to be sort of try to forget about, act like, oh my God, someone said, oh, you're verified. I'd be like, oh, I hadn't noticed.
It's sort of
I don't look at things like that kind of thing. I don't care about such material things.
The way you describe it reminds me of when either a player or actually specifically when Zach Lowe followed me. I'm like, fuck. Now when I tweet about basketball shit, he could see it. I had to really think about it for a minute. So,
well, some comedy writers follow me that I've been in rooms with, thinking oh, Mike has a Twitter. He'll probably tweet some jokes. No. And then it's just deep Mason Jones scouting reports.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they enjoy it, but everybody's out here doing their best. And thank you to, who should we thank? Should we thank Daryl? Yeah. Daryl Morey for
Daryl has
making us
nothing
do
to do.
Twitter Spaces?
No. Actually, okay. we have because that guy didn't even help us, and we don't have Daryl to thank, who's busy probably. The only thing Daryl has anything to thank for on Twitter is selling his fucking tweets. I still don't understand that. He sells tweets. He turns them into NFTs and sells them. He sells his own tweets. They're
I
not even
refuse to
his.
look into what that is.
It's so fucking weird. No, we have to thank Bob from the Process Trusters of New York. There is a small group. Mike, you will be very disturbed to learn that a good portion of them make very good money.
I've been told. I remember from
Yeah.
all the times they sponsor
Yes.
the podcast for nothing.
They do.
Sponsor
They do.
themselves.
They are. You've probably met. I think the only one that you may have met was Don, who came
Don,
to.
of course.
Yeah. So Don helped out at a couple of lottery parties. He's a great dude. So Bob, I don't believe has ever been to a lottery party, but he works at Twitter. And I put the bug in his ear some months ago, and I had definitely forgotten about it. But we definitely have. Not only are they. Do they take their money and sponsor the podcast? They're all Gen Xers, I believe.
I'm just realizing how long the Sixers. Embiid's coming back, and we're doing 15 minutes on me being verified. I just hit.
It's
thank you,
bigger.
Bob. Thank
It's
you,
bigger.
Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
What a ride!
Thank you, Bob.
What a ride
Thank
it is.
you.
I don't know who I'm going to become. The
Yeah.
Sixers.
Yeah, the Sixers. Okay, so the Sixers wrap up we assume that Embiid will be back on Saturday. That's what Shams said. So we'd guess he'll be back again Saturday. That would mean that he missed 10 games, and the Sixers went 7-3 in those games,
Which is remarkable.
well beyond our expectations.
Well beyond expectations. Well beyond where they were playing earlier this season. In also the rest of Joel's career. Like, it just can't be overstated how remarkable that is. You can never get over the on-off splits of Joel Embiid in the Sixers Raptors playoff series. You just can't get over it. They were the best team in the league with him on the court and became the worst team of all time without him on the court. And the fact that they went 7-3 on a not easy road trip. They got some luck based on injuries and stuff from other teams, but 7-3, like especially on a 4-2 road trip, like you take it. Like I'm thrilled about it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, the real swinger there was getting the Warriors without Curry and then the Lakers without
Anybody.
Yeah, without LeBron and AD, and that was a big. But they still had to win the games, and they were still on the road. And
they're the Sixers. Look, we've seen them lose so many games that they should have won. Of course, in every era, but especially in this era without Joel, they just have never looked like a human team. And they did, and they played well, and they got contributions from a ton of guys. And the trade deadline happened over the course of this stretch, which I think on a human level for these players in a pandemic year is not anything to sneeze at, and all the names of players that were getting swirled around and thrown in trades and stuff.
Thankfully, we have a pro like Danny Green who just plays right the fuck through it, even though he was in every room.
He does. We came so close to getting a Danny Green tip dunk tonight. Did you see that?
Yes, it was very, very, very close.
So close to happening. I leapt. I was laying on the ground and I leapt up for it, and it didn't pay off. But that's even better for Danny. It's just been great. They're a half game out of first place. I think a lot of bench guys are playing with a lot of confidence. The bench was great tonight and almost brought us back. Kind of fake brought us back in the Denver game. I don't think they really ever had a shot. Denver really let their foot off the gas, but I certainly made it interesting, more interesting than it would have been. And so I love little stretches when over the course of a long weird season you get contributions from weird guys with Embiid coming back and George Hill to come. It's just the vibes are back. The vibes are good.
The bench, of course, it was the bench unit that did well specifically tonight, but I would like to point out the Shake Milton game tonight was a bit of a sigh of relief, not just because he scored, but those threes he hit, he didn't look like he was heaving them the way that he looked like he was heaving them 2 weeks ago. Now, when he's a few steps beyond the 3-point line, he doesn't look like he has that range right now, but the corner threes look pretty smooth to me, you know?
Yeah, for sure. He hit, I would say at least three corner threes tonight, and I just feel like that's such a rarity this season for him. It just doesn't seem like
I agree.
He's been, whether it's been lineups or just his positioning on the court, it doesn't seem like he's been lining up in the corner much. I mean, so much of it is that Danny is just always in one corner, so that's just kind of automatic. And so Shake takes his from more the wing or right up top. But it was cool to see him get those. He shot 5 of 7 from 3, 27 points on 14 shots. got in the action, passed well. He just seemed to like really have it in a nice way. He's got, when he gets to the rim, like this was a prime Shake like 3-level scorer game. He was hitting threes, 5 of 7. He was getting to the rim, got to the line a little bit. Had those little lefty scoops with the English that slides over, and then also like the little pull-ups and turnarounds. He just like really good night for Shake. And it's it's Cleveland, but they beat us twice, and so I'm not gonna take anything for granted. And any boost of confidence for Shake, especially when they just got George Hill to kind of take his role. I wouldn't say it's exactly, but kind of. It's cool to get him some playing time and get playing well.
Yeah, I agree. It looked good. It looked good. And you're right. I don't remember him shooting very many corner threes this year at all. But I will say, having George Hill, a competent point guard to have him playing with, like maybe he ends up getting more of them. He can play with George Hill. There's no reason why he couldn't, Totally. So I think
And I want to shout out just generally, they had 1 turnover in the first half. They had 9 total in the game. And I'm sure it seemed like at least 7 of them were Dwight offensive fouls on screens. But just nice. It's nice to see after a real clunker from the especially the starters in the Denver game. It's cool to see them like clean things up and look good and play with some flow and kind of get wherever they wanted. And that's, I think, started with a really good and productive, but also like high volume Seth Curry game, which is really nice to see. 5 of 10 from 3 in only 25 minutes. That's just great. That's like what we're asking for. His range is, his willingness to shoot from range is really nice to see. After earlier this season, it feels like he had a little bit of that Tobias, got to get those toes right behind the line earlier. And especially since he doesn't get much lift on his shot, it's nice that he's going to be able to, him doing that more often is good to see. And 19 points on 5 of 10 shooting from 3. It's just really nice.
That dude's always sucking wind, man.
I think COVID is still affecting him.
Can we stop?
I think it is. I think the Toronto guys just talked about how they all got tired at the same exact time.
He was slow before he got here. He was slow last year.
Oh, for sure. He's not
too.
super fast, but I think like energy wise, it just seems like it is affecting him, and I think Doc is monitoring, and it's good in a game like this, which they did in Denver for worse reasons. But in a game like this, nobody played over 28 minutes. Yeah. The starters, Tobias played 16 because he was in foul trouble. It's just good. It's a long season. Like I'll take any little break where I can get it. Like just any time that they're not on the court is a time that they're not getting hurt. And when the bench can carry them through games like this, even if, I thought Maxey played really well. He shot 2 of 8, so not great, but it just seemed like he was more comfortable out there. It seemed like he was getting to his spots, shooting pretty freely, moving the ball well, seeing the court. And it's just like, even though he's not going to play in the playoffs, like you need some of those guys to just carry you over a long regular season. And I just feel like it was a good bounce back win after a rough first half, and then especially defensively, and then a much worse Denver game.
Especially in the first 5 minutes when Kevin Love is like, oh, wait, Kevin Love's playing this year? And all of a sudden it's like 3. And I'm like, oh, no.
Kevin Love and Matthew Dellavedova playing in 2021
is wild.
That's very wild. Dellavedova, I had a work meeting during the first quarter or so, and I saw Dellavedova on the screen, and I made such a face in the meeting of just like sourness, and it was like, Mike, do you not like that pitch? Something like that. I also reacted to the Phillies play at the plate, the Roman Quinn throw to Real Muto, and the Gene Segura walk off with as muted of a fist pump as I could give in a work meeting.
Well, it was, boy, that was shaping up to be every Phillies loss from the last 3 years.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, boy, holy fuck. When Harper struck out in the ninth, I'm like, oh, wow, we're definitely going to lose this game.
But it's baseball, man. It's good to have baseball back. It's just such a nice
incredible
little thing. I want to get to a game if I can this year.
Oh, yeah, I would love to. And anyone who's listening for the first time ever, Mike, you can't because you're in LA. You have to be in the Philly area. But you could never stream Phillies games before. And if you have the Odyssey app or go to WIP's website, you can stream the games. So people complained about that a lot. So you can listen on the radio. Baseball on the radio is awesome. Fransky and LA are great. So Simmons, I'll read you an email from Ernest. Ernest, I'll always laugh at Ernest, but because of the Ernest movies, but that is well beyond your time, I think. Hey guys,
I watched Ernest.
Oh, really?
It was a very like rainy day movie at camp in like the barn type of thing.
Okay.
Movie to play when everyone's sitting like very close to each other and like crossing their legs and being generally uncomfortable.
We're
watching Ernest. Everybody get excited.
Ernest was a pretty big fucking deal for a minute. You know, Ernest. I think there were a bunch of Ernest movies, weren't there?
A lot of Ernest.
Yeah.
Too much Ernest.
I think this is a different Ernest, but maybe it's the same Ernest. Basketball question. Let me say, by starting out, that I like Ben Simmons a lot. I think he's an elite defender and a great playmaker, but I'm starting to wonder what he's going to be. He is young. We hear it a lot. So in a few years, is he going to be LeBron? Or in a few years, are we going to be thinking of him as the next Nick Batum? Obviously, there are different players offensively that Ben is overall better, and Batum is obviously a good shooter. But I mean in the sense that they're real good defenders who can guard multiple positions but are limited on offense and get paid more than they should. I also like Batum, by the way. I almost said Gobert, but fuck that guy and the Jazz and their racist fans. So
I can't believe you're hiding behind Ernest. You are allowing Ernest to cover you as you make this point about Ben Simmons. It's shameful. No. A shameful thing using Ernest like that.
Ernest
Your
wrote the
best
email.
friend Ernest.
It is not. Look, what Ernest didn't write is that when you look at, look, Ben's had a bad couple of games after being off for his knee. Maybe his knee's bugging him. I don't know. He certainly doesn't look like normal Ben these last couple of games. But I will say this: we tend to, we watch a lot of these games, and Simmons had a great month stretch, and everybody's like, he's turned the corner. And we wake up today, 3/4 of the way through the season, and you look at his numbers, and they're literally exactly the same as every other year. His free throw shooting is at 64%, and it was 62 last year. Like, that's up a tick. But his true shooting's worse than last year. His points, rebounds, assists, worse than last year. The highest turnover rate of his career, the lowest assist rate of his career. That said, all the numbers within like smidgens of every other year. I think it would be fair to say that what he is offensively, he is. And we can look for little things like, hey, he's screening this or he's screening that. But like the idea of Daryl Morey has tried to trade for 2 players this year and traded for a third, and they're all point guards. Like, he tried to trade for James Harden, he tried to trade for Kyle Lowry, and then he just traded for George Hill. And I just think, like, the real question is does Ben want to be this, like, Swiss Army knife guy who eventually shoots corner threes and defends everyone? And because, like, this whole dream of him being this, like, game-changing point guard, I just think it's crazy to even imagine anymore. Yeah,
I mean, I disagree on a few levels. I think that's not surprising that I would. I think that his season has been different than past seasons in that the first, I don't know how to do this game wise, but the first stretch of the season, he was like, he doesn't look very good. He looks engaged defensively, really going all out defensively, and then on offense kind of really deferring and not creating in the half court, not even really pushing a ton in transition. I feel like he was just sort of taking a back seat. And then there was a stretch from the Boston game, the end of the Boston game to the through to the Jazz game, the 42 points and all that stuff, where it was like, oh, this is new. Like this is we were watching a new type of Ben Simmons, where he did have confidence going to either hand with a little jump hook, with going to the rim, finishing through contact, getting to the line a ton, beating his guys on face-ups in the post or even from out to 3 and just like grabbing and going and seeing like there is more here. There is more skill there. And I started dreaming, and I say this a lot, but what is going to look like when you have a backup 5 who can actually stretch the floor next to him. And clearly Ben and Dwight lineups have struggled, especially offensively all season. And then there's been this stretch lately where he's been pretty bad. And he addressed it, I think, after the Denver game, saying he's got to be better. There's a lot going on. Who knows, injury-wise? It seems like he's a step slow. It seems like especially against Jamal Murray, it seemed like he looked, I think someone described him looking like he was in quicksand. It just didn't seem like he quite had it. He said there was a quote like, "There's a lot going on. Who knows what that encompasses?" But I think like with Ben, and not just with Ben, with a lot of Sixers, like there are stretches when they do things well and make a point of emphasis to actually, for Tobias, I'm actually going to shoot threes quickly. For Embiid, it's post passing, although he's surpassed it because he's just an MVP. For Ben, it's clearly like aggression inside. Touch inside. His touch inside has left him the past, 7 games or something like that. Tonight was really bad for him, just like finishing around the rim, didn't have anything at all. And has gone back to kind of bailing smaller guys out by not like pivoting for a dunk or taking that extra dribble or just going up strong or whatever it is, like taking a fadeaway around Dellavedova is malpractice. But I'm just not willing to say that like this is who he is, because we did see for a stretch he could be this other guy. And so in my mind, it's how can Doc get him? How can Daryl get him to be consistently this one guy rather than, I can turn it on here and there, but there's a little too much deferring, a little too much, dunker's spot, and especially when there's other guys on the court that prevent, you can't have 4 guys in the dunker spot at once, although the Sixers have certainly tried over the past few years. How can he get better at it, and how can they better set him up to do that? He's going through a bad stretch now, and I'm not saying he's going to be like Chris Paul point guard type of thing. He's clearly his own unique type of person that's good at some things, that's great at some things, and that's very weak at others. But I'm just not willing to say like this is who he is, because who he is right now is a guy that is inconsistent, is occasionally excellent and elite, and can be that guy that people are talking about, and then occasionally it becomes like foot off the gas, deferring, kind of zero offensively, not spacing the floor, all the stuff that we know.
Okay, because I don't want this to be the whole pod. Let me just push back on a couple of things, and then you can respond, and then we'll just move on to the next thing. What I would say is, but we've seen like that stretch before.
I don't think I have.
Well,
that's my take is over that stretch that if we cut Ben's season into thirds so far, and we're in the third, the middle third was something that I had not seen him be that aggressive and successful and getting to the line and scoring that much and all that stuff.
I think if you were to look at the last however many games of his rookie season, if you were to look at the stretch right before he got hurt last season, my position would be that similar stretches happen every year, and we talk ourselves into it. And my other position would be, I don't think he's this guy either. Like, I don't think he's the worst guy, but that's why we have averages. And like you brought up Tobias. Sure, there are stretches where Tobias shoots more threes, but when you look down at the end of the season and you're like, oh, he shot 4.2 threes again, that's what it is. Like, that's what the numbers are. So he could get better, obviously, but I think at a certain point, like the guy's on a max level deal, and he's supposed to be the second best player on a championship team, and the best player on the team was out, and he just disappeared, and basically like the entire time, more or less. So I don't know, like could it happen? Sure. I mean, players get better at many points of their career, but I think for me, the expecting it to happen is not there anymore. Like, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, it's not like his growth has been exponential. We're seeing it each season, like he's adding things. But I thought this season was different. I agree with you that there's been stretches, and especially like that last 16 games that they won his rookie year, when Joel was out for most of it because he broke his face on Markelle Fultz's shoulder, which is still a crazy thing to say.
Yeah.
I think that there's more to it, and I think that he is not a naturally like perfect offensive player by any means. Like it is a lot of it is situational, I would say, and right now there are situational things that I would like to see improved around him, and I'd also like to see him be better. Like obviously, it goes hand in hand. Like he needs to be better, and the situation needs to be better. And so I would say like, let's see. In my mind, the Sixers over the stretch without Joel have been good and they've won. And Ben struggled through a lot of that, but they've also won games with him, playing the most or second most minutes out there. And so it's not like he's holding them back. So I think it's unfortunately coincided with an Embiid absence. Unfortunately coincided with a bad to mediocre Simmons stretch for most of it, especially on offense, and especially scoring, I will say. And he's been turning the ball over a lot as well. That's something that's kind of plagued him his whole career. But I'm not willing to say he can't get better or he dropped the ball here and that's emblematic of his whole career or projecting forward or anything.
Mike, this isn't really a college basketball podcast, even though I think you wish it were. Sometimes during draft time we get college basketball. But as I talk about DraftKings and the tournament, which wraps up this weekend and Monday, right? The tournament?
Yeah,
does?
Saturday and Monday.
What would you say your favorite thing is, and who is your pick to win it all? Your favorite thing from the tournament, like what has been your storyline that you like the most, and then what's your pick?
Oh man, I mean, just it's a quantity thing for me. It's just the sheer number of games. I've watched all of them. It's been great. It's been dizzying. I think sometimes I get a little nauseous after 4 days of 12 straight hours of basketball, but it gets there, and it really, after 2 years of not getting it, I feel great. My feeling going forward, man, Gonzaga's good. They're very good. They embarrassed Alyssa's USC Trojans pretty hard, and UCLA is playing with nothing to lose. But I feel like Gonzaga is favored by quite a bit, and that's not wrong. They've only won one game by fewer than 10 points, and they've obviously lost 0.
Yeah.
But Baylor Houston is going to be a dogfight. That I'm excited for. Those are my guys. I love both of those teams. Very fun.
Sounds like you're enjoying it. By the way, my brother's USC Trojans. He graduated from there, right. And my 1/4 USC Trojans. So, so DraftKings is where you bet on the games this weekend. The center of the action. Get this. Bet $1 on any tournament game. If your team wins, you get $100. So they're giving you 100-to-1 odds this weekend on any tournament game. Bet $1. You get $100 if they win. No better place to bet on the tournament than DraftKings Sportsbook. And if you're like me and you don't know dick about college basketball, that's okay, because they have pro basketball and hockey, golf. I don't know dick about golf either. One would say I don't know dick about basketball, but in any case, DraftKings is where you go, whether you know dick or not, to bet, because it is the best sports gaming app there is. Safe and secure. You deposit your money, goes right in. You withdraw it, it comes right out. Download it right now. Use promo code RTRS when you sign up. Turn $1 into $100 if the college basketball team of your choosing wins. That's code RTRS to turn $1 into $100 for a limited time. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply in partnership with Meadows Racetrack Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. So Embiid, who we mentioned, comes back on Saturday.
Very exciting.
Very exciting.
So, I mean, he's their best player, and they were 7-3.
3 without him.
That's just great.
Yeah.
That's just really very nice. And now we should shout out a good Dwight Howard game, even with the fouls, 18 and 15, on decent shooting from the field and from the line. You got to respect it. There was a gorgeous lob from Korkmaz to Dwight that I really liked. I like seeing guys get excited.
Oh, the Korkmaz to Dwight lob was awesome.
That was great. And there was a good shake one also, I think. Matisse had a nice leave for Dwight when he was running the offense, which was actually a nice thing to see. It was a good Dwight game. It was a good, even with the fouls, which are, and I wish he got tossed. I do wish he got tossed at the end of every game.
Yeah.
I think there should be a ritual.
After promising that he won't. Let it happen again.
Please don't make me get tossed. But if there's like a minute left and they're up 20, like he should get tossed. He should like pull the ref's pants down or something and be like, gotcha, toss me. It's my bit.
He is remarkably athletic for a guy his age.
Yeah.
It's remarkable, actually.
I mean, 12th and 13th in rebounds and blocks of all time is really nothing to sneeze at. It really isn't. And you usually think of like, a grizzled veteran that has like all the, institutional knowledge and basketball IQ. Dwight's doing dumb stuff out there a lot of the time.
Yeah,
a lot of the time. But he gets the job done. I don't want to say more often than not, but sometimes. And when he does and it works, it's a good thing to see. And for the salary that he's on, especially, it is feeling always cautiously good about Dwight.
That's a t-shirt. He gets the job done. What was it?
I don't know.
Not all the time, but sometimes. Yeah. So Embiid comes back. Do you think? I know you're going to say you don't care, but I bet he does, and I kind of do. My opinion is that if Jokic doesn't get hurt and the Nuggets don't slide, the MVP is pretty much lost.
Oh, I don't know that I'd agree with that.
Oh, really?
I think the Sixers did. I meant to say this. MVP wise, like they succeeded in not falling to like obviously too far away from 1 or even to 4 or whatever it is. They didn't go 2-10 or something. Mm-hmm. But they also showed in enough games, especially the Nuggets game, they're not a contender without Joel. Like he is clearly they've now begun to tread water sometimes against mostly lowly competition or injured competition without him, but they're still not even close to what they become. So I think Denver's doing well, but they're still 6th in the West right now. I don't know.
Yeah,
that
but they're like
give
2 games out of like.
Yeah, for sure. But if I think Denver would need to be like 4th, but probably more likely 3rd for him to get it. I think if they're the 6th seed, I don't think you can give them an MVP. Even though obviously Jokic is great, and obviously Jokic is the worst possible matchup that the Sixers could have in a game without Embiid. Because even though Mike Scott did a nice job on him, I will say defensively as good of a job as Mike Scott could do in that circumstance, that is a tough matchup. So I think the Sixers for Embiid's MVP scenario, like they did good enough, but also showed how bad they could be, and that's like that balances out right for me.
Okay, so you think he still has a shot? Well,
yeah, I think. I mean, it depends if he comes back and is the same guy. If he ends up struggling and stuff. But I think if they're close, their numbers are close, their differential is close, and maybe if Jokic misses a couple games here and there, it's not like 70 to like 52 or whatever it's going to be. And the Sixers are the 1 or the 2 seed, and the Nuggets are the 6 seed. I think they'd still give it to Joe.
So the other ones that are, of course, we have the possibility of LeBron coming back and the Lakers going like 11-1 when he comes back, which would be narrative friendly. And then there's Giannis. I don't think can win it. There is Harden, who has been unreal too. It'll be an interesting race.
I just don't think. I think Giannis and Harden are both kind of out on technicalities. I don't think they want to give it to Harden, especially because as Kyrie plays more and Durant is coming back soon, I just don't think you can look at those guys and be like, that's the MVP. Imagine what they'd be without him, though they'd be one of the best teams in the league still. And so I just think there's going to be games when Harden, even against Houston, he like got like 12 or 14 shots up or something like that. He wasn't the focal point of the offense, and that's going to even happen more often when Durant's there. And Giannis, because they don't want to give him 3 MVPs, which is it all feels a little arbitrary, but I get it. And LeBron, it's like they did not look good for a while with LeBron without AD. And in my mind, you could take any 2 players off the Sixers and have Joel still there, and they'd still be the first or second, the top 3 seed in the East. Even if you could take any 2 Sixers off. And for that LeBron to be without AD and have everybody else and still like struggle as much as they did, I think that's an indication to me that it shouldn't be him.
Yeah, I think out of all the people we talked about, I think giving it to LeBron would probably be the craziest. That would make me the maddest because I think he probably deserves it the least. And then I think the other question is how the Sixers handle him the rest of the year, Embiid. So if he comes back and plays Saturday, I almost would rather he play Sunday so I don't have to deal with mentally the idea of him coming back and play. They're not going to have him play both games
back to
when
back?
he comes. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I could see him doing it. I could totally see them doing it.
Oh,
for
my
sure.
God.
The LeBron thing, it's like, yes, he's been the best player in the league for the last X amount of years, 15, whatever it is.
But he's not this year.
But he's not this year, and he hasn't been in most of the years that they did MVP. And when you talk about the regular season, it's a regular season award. That's what it's talked about as. You can win the like ESPN rank top player in the year. You frame that on your mantle and think about that in MVP conversations or Hall of Fame conversations in the future. When it's like, hey, he was ranked the best player in the league by Ben Golliver, so he should be a first ballot Hall of Fame. Whatever it is, who cares? But MVP should be the most valuable player of the season that we're currently in. And I know that people get to start to get sweaty when you look at the last 10 years of LeBron. I get it, but he should have more than 4. But like which season? Like which season would you give it to? Maybe the Westbrook triple-double season? One of them? I don't know. To me, it's just like you give it. Otherwise, don't call it MVP. Just call it like who's the best player forever guy. And then
a
be like,
different
I guess
word.
It's LeBron. And why even vote? Just be like, here it is. Go for it.
And by the way, much like for Defensive Player of the Year, shouldn't they just have big and non-big for that? Because otherwise it doesn't seem like a wing should ever win it. Because there's no wing that is more important than the best defensive center, I don't think.
Yes,
so
I agree with that. I think there should be Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, and then MVP that combines both of them. So you can't win offensive, or you can only win one of them, I would say.
Okay.
So like the idea that like Giannis won MVP and Defensive Player of the Year, it's like, well, that's just, spread it out a little. Also, he didn't deserve Defensive Player of the Year at that time. But yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying about big and non-big. I think that could be valuable because it's just, especially with the rudimentary, flawed, like defensive statistics that we have access to, as Daryl told us, he doesn't trust really any of them. Yeah, I wouldn't mind that.
He's going to play both games, isn't
he?
He's
yes,
definitely
he
going to play. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. So
I also think sneakily like nothing was wrong with him. I also think he might have been able to play like 2 days later.
Oh.
And that it was
that'd be an interesting conspiracy.
Let's be as careful as possible, and let's just don't go on this road trip. Just rest it, just in case, just to be safe. Abundance of caution, everything, and then this is the first game back, and it's like, okay, fine.
So we have our trusted writer Andrew Underberger came up with the 64 best sort of non-basketball play Joel Embiid moments. The top 60. He did a field of 64. We put the first 2 rounds on Twitter for voting. So we're down to the Sweet 16. I wanted to run down those 8 matchups and see what your choice is. The voting will be on Twitter this weekend, and then the final game will be Monday. So in the Sweet 16, we have the number 1 seed ass slap battle with Cousins versus the number 4 seed calling Milwaukee a shithole on Instagram. What do you like better?
It's tough. I mean, what are the qualifications of what should win? Like just like the
best.
Most, the best. Okay.
The best.
I would say the Cousins ass slap.
Okay.
Because I don't love calling a city a shithole.
Yeah.
I also think every city
Milwaukee.
like has charms and shitty parts of it, as everywhere does. And the Cousins thing was fun for me because that was his rookie year, right? The first year he played. I believe it was.
I don't remember.
It was very much a moment like DeMarcus Cousins at that point was still like a big deal, a perennial all-star, hadn't torn his Achilles yet, and was seen as one of the more unstoppable centers in the league. And then after the game, he goes like, that guy's going to be one of the best centers in the league one day after I retire or something like that. And obviously Joel became it very quickly, but that was his rookie year, I'm pretty sure. And to go from like, he's not going to play for 2 years to now he's not only playing, but ass slapping Cousins on the court, who's this ornery guy, as they're running up and down the court in a game that doesn't matter. And that was just obviously perfect for us. And being told Cousins going to the media and like praising him, felt like a he belongs moment that felt very validating to me just because of what he had been through in the years prior.
I'm big on he belongs moments, by the way.
Yeah,
I would say
for sure.
I was glad when I came home from work today. There was a box. Everybody likes getting packages, right? Mike, you love getting mail, getting packages.
Yeah, I have a chair by the door that I lovingly refer to as the trash chair, where all the packages will go outside when they're done. And Alyssa doesn't love the trash chair. No. Doesn't really see as much joy in the trash chair as I do, but it's it's good. It serves a purpose.
When I got home, there was a box. It was a box from BodyBio. I was fucking thrilled because I ran out of E-Light. E-Light is what keeps me hydrated. It's what should keep you hydrated, especially if you want to be hydrated without any sugar or artificial colors or artificial flavors or any of that shit. If you just want the things that are going to hydrate you, wait, what are the ingredients? Hold on. All it is going to make sure you're hydrated. Sodium, potassium, magnesium. That's it. So I decided to go on the BodyBio website and just subscribe to E-Light. So it just comes once a month now. It's right here. If you're looking on YouTube, you take a cap of it. I put it in my Spindrift in the morning, and then with dinner, I put it in my Spindrift. You can put it in anything. You put it in water, put it in juice if you want, put it in booze. I don't care. Hydration is the key to everything, man. We are 70% water. Mike, of course, is at least 90% water now. It is very, very, very important. Not just I've mentioned before, I would have a cramps problem because I run in the morning and I don't hydrate right. But you're hydrated right, it's going to reduce fatigue. You're gonna have more energy. And BodyBio, local company, family-owned company, and they're all about science, man. If they feel like they learned something new that they got to change BodyBio because they are a local company and they're small business around here, they can change the makeup of it right away, and they believe in that shit. Love BodyBio. Go to bodybio.com, use code RTRS20, get $20 off. Or not $20 because it's only like $20. Get 20% off E-Light or anything else at BodyBio. Trust me, I've had a couple. Greg sent me a DM, longtime listener. He was like, "Hey, BodyBio, I have cramps all the time. I go spin class, I get cramps. Does it really work?" And I said, "Buy it. If you don't like it, I'll give you my money back." Now I'm not offering that to everybody, but I'm just telling you, get the smaller bottle if you want. Give it a try. It just fucking works, man. It's good for you. Bodybio.com, code RTRS20. Okay, the next one, hold on, where's the window? The next one is number 6, him doing the Eurostep dance versus the number 2 seed participates in Retweet Armageddon but spells Armageddon wrong.
Gotta be Retweet Armageddon. Gotta be.
Yeah.
Easily.
I mean, that's an all-timer, right?
Yeah. His engagement in the community, in the stupid thing, is really what separates him from being any other, like, very big star player, you know? Like, there's just there's no comparison.
Yeah, I mean, he's been that since he got here. You know, like, yeah, it's been the
even
entire
just like
time.
Dario's never coming over, like that kind of stuff, like him just always being engaged on that level and making fun of himself ever since the moment that they drafted him. In the video that with the where he looks stone-faced and upset, but it's only because of a lag in the feed when they drafted him, and him making fun of himself for that. It's really like immediately shown to be one of the most charismatic and like keyed in sync with the fan base, and like the not just the regular fan base, like the diehard fan base, the like psycho sicko fan base like us. Makes him just really special and is unmatched in all of sports.
So the next one, number 1 seed appearing on the Ricky versus the number 4 seed baiting Donovan Mitchell into a technical foul.
That was fun. The Ricky thing was cool because it was at a very, obviously sad point in the pandemic when things were getting worse again, and it was just such a breath of fresh air for like me personally to see him come on the screen and for me to have the like dumbest grin I've ever had in my life, and him to kind of know that what he was doing was years in the making, and that he was like game and fun to joke with and laughing and stuff was really cool. It's a bummer that the first appearance didn't happen at a live show, like him coming down from the rafters, and
it was never going to.
Yeah, that's probably right.
I wanted it to, but it just never was going to.
But this one was really special, and obviously having him do it right before he recorded the JJ's podcast, which was fun for you personally, and a nice bit of spite. But it was just great. It was a fun interview, and it was. I got to rewatch it. Like I want to experience it again because he's the best.
Next one, you'll like this one. I'm just trying to think of the number it is here. The number 3 seed shaming the Sixers into stopping their pandemic cutbacks versus the number 2 seed calling the technical on Donovan Mitchell for the referees.
It's all Donovan. It's shaming the owners. There's nothing better than someone cool learning the extent of their power.
Yep.
And this was another example, not the only one, another example of Joel doing that and showing like I matter more than the Sixers owners. Mm-hmm. And that was awesome, and that was cool, and it was also a really good thing to do, like just a generous thing.
It was great.
Obviously,
it was a great
the right
moment
thing to do, and
and
the parts of us that have sort of whiplashed back and forth from being like virulently anti-Sixers management and ownership to virulently pro-Sixers management and ownership, and then back again, and then kind of in the middle with Elton, and then
back
now we're
again.
split a little bit in like it's Daryl and he's Hinky's dad, but also fuck them. And I think I think Joel feels that as well. And doing this and doing it for good, it was was great. I mean, the best.
All right, the next side of the bracket, number 1 seed nicknames himself The Process, or the number 4 seed talking about the real estate he has in Andre Drummond's head.
The Drummond thing's nice. It's a bit of a bummer that Drummond is now,
Sucks.
he's gonna help on the Lakers, but he's just so not. He's not worth it. If
everybody
it
knows
to be a
he's
guy
not
that was,
good.
Yeah, if he happened to be a top 5 guy in either conference, then you could be like, okay, that's cool. But this is like, I mean, he could be. Are we excited if he has space in DeLon Wright's head? Like, it's just not anything.
Right.
And so it's very clearly nicknaming himself The Process, and again forcing the Sixers' hand to start calling him The Process after they so very clearly wanted to distance themselves from that. Another example of him using his power to do whatever he wanted, and also honor the guy who drafted him and who made it happen and was a big part of getting us to this place and all that stuff.
And remember when he first started doing all of his Sixers interviews, he would say trust the process in every interview. I don't know if you remember that, but every interview he did. All right. Number 6, Joel, quote, do a 180 Embiid, or he says that he's at 69% recovery.
Remind me the full extent of what do a 180 is from.
So somebody said they say on TV that, what was it? CJ, say it. Oh, it was Jeopardy. They said like it was his nickname or something, or they said that was his catchphrase, that he would do a 180. Right. It was on Jeopardy.
That was insane. And then what was the other one?
The other one was, wait, hold on. Oh, that he says he's at 69% recovery.
69. I mean, it's a tie. I think either of them are good, or either of them are just like no stakes, no, a victimless crime, but just like Joel being very online, like the rest of us, and being willing to make himself look like a doofus. So this is a jump ball for me.
A tie. Okay, 2 more. The number 1 seed, the Airplane versus Toronto.
Oh my God.
Or the number 4 seed, the Phantom of the Opera mask.
Oof.
Yep. The Phantom of the Process. Remember he rung the bell with the Phantom of the Process.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
And then Justice Winslow stomped on it.
Yes.
It's tough because both of them are happy moments, in that he's with the mask, he came back, and then they won a round. but then lost to the Celtics, and he was very uncomfortable in the mask. You could tell he wasn't feeling great. And then obviously the game 4 of the was game 4 or game 3 of the Raptors series. It was game 3 of the Raptors series when they take a 2-1 lead, and I felt like it was over. We were going to win by so much. They weren't going to win again. They'd have to leave Toronto. They would never be able to come back to the NBA because we were going to beat them by so bad. And that windmill dunk in the lane, followed by the airplane. I will say, in the moment, the airplane made me the happiest. And whatever happened afterwards was all because of the failure to have any serviceable backup for Joel, as we've talked about on this podcast and probably every other podcast in that series in particular. And so I will crystallize that moment in time and pick that moment without thinking about what happened after.
And finally, the number 11 seed gets in the Sweet 16 when he says that he learned how to shoot by watching white people shoot threes on YouTube, or the number 10 seed blocking younger kids at the park while playing basketball.
Those are good. I like that it's an upset. What do you think on this one? They're both good.
I think the white people shooting threes thing is, like, if you remember, there was a whole series of Joel Embiid doing shit at parks. He was like playing tennis, and he played basketball a bunch of times, and there was the one, do you remember when he was like running at night when the cab driver saw him or something?
Yeah. Didn't we have, was it Felicia that saw him dunk in the park when she was carrying home like groceries? In my mind, she had a baguette. Yeah. Felicia
was grocery shopping, I think, at the Whole Foods on South Street, and saw him and took those pictures.
Oh, right.
And I reached out to her. Yeah.
So he did do that a lot, which is cool. And we have a lot of online things already. And so it's cool to see him like engaged in the community and feel like, as a 7-foot guy, massive, that everyone is so concerned about his health at all times that he would just go play on a shitty blacktop at a park and block the fuck out of some guys. But that is nice. But the learn to shoot from white people on YouTube is like a seminal Joel core moment. That was one of the first moments, I would say.
Yeah, it's one of the ones that hangs around.
Yeah, and so I would think that you got to go with that one, but it's close.
I agree with you on that. So the voting will be, sorry, it's only for Twitter people. So if you want to vote, you're going to have to get on Twitter. It'll be on the Ricky Twitter this weekend. Mike, I'd like to do a public service announcement, if you don't mind.
Sure.
You okay with that? I have no problem with the actual dogs that come from breeders. They're just dogs. You want a dog, like, they don't know. They're just dogs. But please adopt dogs instead of going to breeders. And I don't say this because I think you should do like the kind and nice thing and adopt, even though there are tons of adoptable pets. But like, there's just so many think about this. If they're breeding dogs, that must mean they have a dog to breed them. And that dog's whole job is making other dogs. It's my public service announcement. I had somebody reach out to me about a GoFundMe for a puppy that they got from a breeder that ended up being sick. And it just made me think about the whole thing. And of course I want the puppy to survive. But this is just my reminder: adopt, do not shop. And as I say,
there's a decent chance that I will be adopting a dog at some point in the next calendar year, I would say.
Really?
Hopefully that will happen.
That is huge. Please adopt, don't shop.
I will.
Adopt, don't shop. There's so many. And by the way, I've helped people. If there's a specific kind of dog you're looking for, reach out to me. I got my tentacles in shelters around here. I can find you the dog that you want. That whole, I want a purebred this or purebred that. What are you doing? A fucking dog show? No, purebred. Come on, grow up. Come adopt a fucking dog. Anyway, when Mike adopts a dog, that dog will sleep on a big barker. Why? Right. Because big barkers are healthy, right? I mean, it's a good bed. And because they're a sponsor, but mostly because it's a good bed. There wasn't anybody that thought about real dog beds, right? They were like, this will look cute in the corner. Everybody goes to the pet store, spends $50 in a dog bed. But Eric from Big Barker said, I have a big dog, and this can't be good on his joints. So they went through tons of R&D, and they came up with the Big Barker dog bed, which is proven by PennVet to ease the stress on your dog's joints, improve their quality of life, make the dogs healthier. BigBarker.com/Ricky. Go there. You get yourself a Big Barker dog bed. You also get 2 processed pup patches, and you send us a picture of your dog. We put them in the processed pup gallery. What I would tell you to do is go to the processed pup section, RickySanchez.com, and look at the dogs on the beds. First of all, look how comfortable they are, but also look how high up off the ground they are. That's because it is a real mattress, real memory foam. This shit is proven. I'm telling you. And it's not just for big dogs. Any size dog, Rebel. My dog's 40 pounds, has a Big Barker. There's the Barker Jr.
He's only 40 pounds?
Yeah, he looks, he's like skinny and long, so he looks tall, but he's not that big. Yeah, he's 40 pounds, small dog. I put him in my purse.
Nice.
Yeah. He's only 40 pounds. People are surprised. Anyway, BigBarker.com/Ricky. It is important for your dog to be sleeping on something that supports his or her joints. 10-year warranty, foam doesn't flatten, or they replace it for free. 1-year at-home trial, send it back, full refund. They'll even pay for the shipping. Made in the USA. Big Barker dog beds. The hard to stomach YouTube comment of the week is brought to us by Stateside Vodka, the sponsor of the Corner 3 newsletter. Hey, they are giving away a case of Stateside Vodka every single month. Be a member of the Stateside Vodka Winners Club. It takes like 30 seconds to enter, and then you're just entered every month. So go to statesidevodka.com to enter to win, and then invite us over when the pandemic is over to drink all of your vodka. Go to Stateside Vodka.
I did the Stateside Vodka March Madness pool, and there's a bunch of people in there. There's like hundreds of people, and I am close, but I'm not going to win, which is disappointing. What
would you win?
I think a case
vodka.
of Stateside Vodka, I think.
Ah, that's a good prize.
Yeah.
You got to be 21. The hard to stomach YouTube comment of the week comes from Brendan McEwen. I thought it was a good question. He addresses it to me, but it's for both of us. On the subject of Matisse increasing his three-point volume, he said, I agree with the premise of what you're talking about, that you get way more value from 3-and-D players when they actually shoot, but I'm on the fence of how we would actually implement this. If Matisse were to expand his role to shooting 6 or 7 threes per game instead of 2, that's 5 more offensive possessions that need to end in a Matisse-Thybulle three-point attempt than we currently have. Matisse is currently playing 20 minutes per game, so a conservative estimate of his possessions per game is around 40. Do we really need Matisse to close 20% of our offensive possessions when he's on the floor? And if the answer is yes, whose usage should it come at the expense of? I think, for me, the answer to this is, he has a lot more to this, is that if he could shoot 37% at higher volume, he would be on the court longer.
Yeah.
It's just an easy answer to me.
And also, so many of his looks are pretty wide open,
Mm-hmm.
and he's been hot and cold a little bit. I think we're in a decent overall. He's cooled down from like right after the All-Star break, but it's leveled out to be like still better than it was the first half of the season. He's taking so many open looks, they would have to start covering him. Like that'd be more what it is. And so it wouldn't be just, hey, he should take every single shot that he gets. It would be now his guy doesn't leave him to double shake, or they don't run at Seth so hard to contest that Seth has to pass it up. Like those kinds of things, that it would just change the way that the game would flow on the court, because you'd have to account for him a little bit more than you do.
Yeah, he'd just be better at he'd just be a better player, so he'd be on the court more. And you wouldn't mind we don't mind when possessions end in Danny Green three-pointers, corner three-pointers, so we wouldn't mind them from Matisse either. Lorenzo Brown mailbag writes to RickySanchez@gmail.com is where you send us mailbag questions. Send us one basketball and one non-basketball. This comes from, is the normal pronunciation of Xavier, Xavier or Xavier?
I think Xavier probably.
Okay, so from Xavier. I do want to acknowledge the hilarious interaction between you and Mike that is a microcosm of your dynamic. When Mike deadpan said that transition defense is the Sixers' biggest weakness, and you almost had an aneurysm on air, only for Mike to double down.
That's right.
Classic. And a question, so I fit into the criteria. 1, would you want a Kelly Olynyk buyout to the Sixers, a very Ilyasova from a few years ago? You've already been pro Olynyk,
I have been
right?
Pro. And again, this is a theory from earlier in the season, but they need to be uglier. too hot.
Right. He is ugly.
They're hot now. George Hill's a good-looking man, so I need to balance that out with Kelly Olynyk. And they got rid of some ugly dudes, which is tough.
Who did they get? Oh, yeah, Terrence Ferguson and Tony Bradley. Tony Bradley's not ugly, is
Poirier
he?
is a more ugly guy.
Oh,
Tony
yeah.
Bradley is
how
passable.
about Poirier? I guess I kind of... Look, I don't know if Poirier is a dick or not. The fact that Doc Rivers didn't even text him when he got traded is kind of funny, though.
That's tough, yeah.
Yeah, come on, Doc. And then his second question, after seeing JJ Redick have a massive bitch on his podcast about the realities of being an NBA player, is he irredeemably dislikable?
This is you.
What
Go say your thing. You know I'm going to disagree.
Oh, you're wrong, by the way. So JJ Redick signed a contract. That contract was to make $13 million a year to play for the New Orleans Pelicans. JJ Redick went to play for the Pelicans and didn't want to play for the Pelicans. So he asked the general manager, could you trade me to this very specific small group of teams in a specific area of the country?
He said it was because he went there to play with Drew, and then they traded Drew.
Which is the biggest load of... He went there to play with Drew Holiday? Come on.
I think it was
Horseshit.
probably, I don't know if he only went there to play with Drew, but I'm sure it was a big reason why he decided to go. Obviously, the contract and money was
come on. You
another
don't,
big reason. But
what are we? Marcus and Markieff Morris can't play with the other guy? Like, okay, fine. So he, to get traded to one of these teams, goes out and has the worst season of his career, and none of the teams, predictably, want to trade for JJ Redick.
Sure.
So then JJ handles it, by the way, like a total... Does not... I will say this from my information. Does not handle it like a pro. I will say that. Doesn't handle it like a pro. And then is angry when he doesn't get bought out to go and play for whoever he wants to near his home. And is mad that he got traded to Dallas. JJ, if you want to be...
You're leaving stuff out.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. He had a conversation with Trajan Langdon. Trajan Langdon gave him the GM who gave him a promise, gave him his word, whatever it is. No. He's gonna find a way to get you there. That's the handshake kinds of deals that happen. Those kinds of veteran players.
That is half the story. It is what JJ Redick is saying happened.
Sure.
And by the way,
that's fair.
David Griffin publicly said not exactly what happened, and then. I guess I would say, like, there is, I believe there's probably more to the story because they buy out players all the time. Like I don't think, like, what did they even trade them for? They basically traded them for nothing, right? So unless they're that, like, just desperate for asset, like, JJ, if you want to go back home, then just go back home. I don't know what the problem is here. If you can't stand being away from home, then go home. You've made plenty of money in your career. You can say, like Andre Iguodala did it like 2 years ago, didn't want to play in Memphis, stayed wherever he wanted to stay until he could play, and that was it. And if you end up not making the last $5 million of salary this year to be at home because you don't want to play, there are plenty of players over the last year who have made that decision. And to do it publicly while you have to be on that Mavericks team by saying, I don't want to be there, and throwing in this phony caveat that there's nothing against the Mavericks. Just do it after the season. Bitch on your podcast after the season. I just think it's, like, weak. I think this whole thing is weak.
I mean, some of it is the idea of going to the Mavericks after you say that stuff, and I don't know how much his teammates are pumped to play with him in that situation. That's an odd choice, for sure. But, he signed a contract, and then there was a once-in-a-century global pandemic, and he wanted to be with his family. And he went to, he's been in the league a very long time. He goes and asks the manager, which I'm sure his agents were trying to facilitate, hey, can you get me to one of these teams so I can live near my family? At least as JJ tells it. Obviously, the Pelicans aren't going to say, here's exactly what happened, because that's not how it works. But at least as JJ tells it, they said, yeah, we'll do our best, whatever, handshake deal, whatever the fuck. And then he has a podcast that he talks about himself, and I think he wants to be a guy that, like, he owes it to his listeners, whatever, to give them the truth or blah, 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 which is a choice, but whatever. But, like, I don't know. To me, it's like the idea that he wanted to live at home, be with his family during this fucked up season is not something that I would be bummed. I fault him for, and especially.
But he could,
especially after. It's like, this could be his last season or soon. He might be like, I just want to have, I don't want to just leave because I don't know how much I have left in the tank. I want to compete for a championship, whatever it is.
But but you agree he could just go home.
Yeah, but I think he doesn't want. I don't think he wants to. I think he wants to keep playing. I think he wants to. There's people that do. Players have here's the 4 teams to trade me to all the time in every sport, and sometimes those players are not good. Furkan Korkmaz requested a trade, so there's plenty of team players that do that. I don't think it's that. It's a bigger deal because this is the first time he went into detail. Anyone went into detail about it on his own platform, but that's it's his choice. I support player empowerment, and if they want to, the buyout market is basically this whole everyone's going wherever they want. Blake, LaMarcus, Andre Drummond, all these guys getting to go to whatever city they want to play in whatever situation. And I think if his version of the story is true, that he had a handshake deal or whatever, like a gentleman's agreement, whatever the fuck, with management, be like, hey, yeah, we're gonna do right by you, which a lot of teams do all the time. Then I could see how you'd be disappointed when that didn't happen, and then you get to say, hey, you're going to Dallas, which is not on the list of few teams, whatever. You can say he's not good enough to demand a trade like that or demand a short list, whatever it is. But extenuating circumstances in a pandemic, and he has been a high-level NBA player for a long time. So I think a lot of teams would have just done that for him. And so...
I would say if he had that relationship with the front office, they would have done it for him. Like teams, maybe who knows what really happened. One thing is clear: the relationship between him and that front office is not what he thought it was. Maybe he should have let his agent handle it, because clearly Blake Griffin figured out a way for it to happen. LaMarcus Aldridge figured out a way for it to happen.
I think those guys just were making so much money that no one would trade for them, and JJ was on a salary that they.
But nobody would trade for him either.
They did trade for him.
I mean, but none of the teams that he wanted to trade for him would trade for him. Yeah. Angela writes, I'm writing to you from the UK as a complete basketball and Sixers convert. My husband, a Clippers fan, got me listening to the Ricky last year before I even knew what it meant to be relentlessly Dwight TM or what a flagrant 2 was. Definition, what LeBron did to Joel, just saying. I've been so infected that every day now starts with B-ball and ends with the Ricky. Anyway, I have some questions for you. Basketball question. I want to hear you answer this. Well, I think I know your answer, actually. Who would you prefer to build a franchise around? Michael Porter Jr., LaMelo, or SGA? Please rank them.
Oh, wow. MPJ is very clearly third. It's not close.
I knew you were doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that's so not close at all.
He roasted the shit out of us.
Yeah, he played. I mean, he's a guy who hits shots and he can cut off ball and all that stuff, and he has no other responsibilities. So sometimes he hits shots. SGA and LaMelo is tough. SGA is so already good defensively and continues to improve offensively. I think LaMelo is probably going to be the more number one guy offensively. LaMelo is great. So it'd be close. I could see an argument for going LaMelo because he can really anchor your offense more. But I think I think SGA has also that potential. I'd probably go SGA one. One, and then LaMelo.
I'm
MPJ.
surprised,
but it's very close. I love SGA. He's awesome.
I love SGA. I obviously love Michael Porter Jr. I honestly probably only watched 3 or 4 LaMelo games this year. I've watched the other guys way more than I've watched LaMelo, so it's not really fair for me. I like the difference between SGA and Michael Porter Jr., and I know you don't like Michael Porter Jr., is that it does seem like SGA has the ability to be the best offensive player on a great team. And I don't know if SGA is that.
Yeah, I don't know about the best or the number one option all the time. because he's just not crazy athletic, SGA. But he just finds a way to get to his spots and change his pace and uses his length and has really great touch, and his shot continues to improve and has gotten way better than most people thought about him. He was just a guy coming out of the draft that you're just like, this guy's going to find a way to be a very above average NBA player, and he's already surpassed that. And he's kind of just good at everything at this point. And so I'd like to see him on a good team. I'm excited to see what happens there.
I'm trying to imagine what I think his comp is, and I'm having trouble even thinking about what his comp is. Is it like Beal?
It's somewhere between. You're talking about SGA?
Yeah.
No, he's much more of a distributor and like a get everybody in line type of guy. I would say he's like, Conley add 6 inches.
Yeah.
Which
he feels less floor generally to me than Conley does.
Yeah, maybe somewhere between like Shake and Penny.
Yeah, I like the. Yeah, Penny was interesting. Man, I would love to see a Penny again. Yeah. And then basketball-ish question. I've recently gotten into giving NBA players fish avatars. For example, Tobias is a dolphin. Friendly, high IQ, everyone loves him, and he takes care of his pod.
Okay.
Harden is
Dolphins
a
are
lionfish.
notoriously not friendly, though. Isn't that their whole thing? That they're secretly dicks?
Oh, are they secretly dicks?
That's what everybody says.
I don't know. They seem nice. Harden is a lionfish. Great hairstyle, insane reaction speeds, leaves desolation in his path, generally disliked. Gobert is obviously a sea cucumber, complete fraud, not a real cucumber, totally immobile. What would your fish avatars be? And any other ideas to add to my aquarium? Love the pod. Love the Sixers. Joel will forever be my MVP.
Very odd how Angela from the UK with a Clippers fan husband started listening and enjoying the Sixers in this podcast. I don't have anything to add about fish avatars for the Sixers. I'm so sorry. I straight up don't. But I like that you're doing it, and I want you to keep doing it. I just think you're going to have to be on your own on this one because I don't understand how it works.
What would your fish avatar be?
I have no idea. All fish are the same. They're all fish. Every fish is a fish. They're all down there in the scary ocean. What are we doing?
I have no fucking idea what fish I would be. Actually, how about this? Angela, please tell us what fish we would be. Because obviously you have the fucking answers, right?
Seriously.
I mean, she obviously knows what the answer is. So if Joel plays Saturday night, we'll do a pod Sunday morning. I mean, I'm going to do a pod fucking Easter night. I guess I don't even care about Easter, right? I mean, what difference does it make? Whatever. We'll do a pod this weekend. So we'll talk to you this weekend. Joel, don't play in both games. Are you down with TTP?
Then I won't
Yes.
fuck with you.
You know Lickface.
If you don't fuck with me, then I won't fuck with you.
If you don't fuck with me,
Then I won't fuck with you.
but if you fuck with me,
I'm gonna fucking kill you! That's a plan B.